Hello and welcome to the Superhero Podcast. Event comics. They are the big thing nowadays that companies pump out year after year after year. Although they may not have been the case a few years back, now it's up to nearly 2 a year in case. But which ones should be read and which ones should just be avoided from the past and from present day? So here with me today, we've got Joel Daly from the Comic Book Cast. So,
Hello.
Joel, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing really good. Thanks for having me back.
I asked you to come up with your top 3 best and worst event comics series. So we'll hit things off with, we'll start things off with good. So give me your number 3 of your favourite.
Okay, well, when I came back to do the show again, I was not expecting homework, and admittedly, this was a lot tougher than I thought it would be. And like real homework, I, of course, waited till the night before to write this up. Starting it off with actually kind of a weird one I don't think people are going to expect me to say, but I think I got a pretty good reason for it. And that has to be Night of the Owls. That was the first big New 52 Batman event, and I'm picking this really for posterity because I understand that, for a whole new generation of comic readers, this was their first event. This was their first big comic book event, and overall, I thought it was a really solid way to cross over all the different Batman books.
I never actually got to read the Court of Owls series. What was it like, in fact?
It was pretty interesting, of course. It's spun out of the events of the Scott Snyder main Batman book, where Batman discovers that there's this secret society of Gotham aristocrats who have secretly manipulated manipulated the city behind the scenes for years, and he didn't even know about it. And that was really the big theme going into this. Batman fearing the unknown, and him thinking, "Wow, have I really been so self-obsessed in my own fight on crime that I couldn't see that this was going on?"
Something right in front of my eyes.
Yeah, it was one of those, and of course the crossover and the event part of it is that the Court of Owls have these super assassins called Talons, these unstoppable, almost undead killers that they freeze and unfreeze as need be, and the Night of the Owls was a bunch of them getting set loose on the city with a mandate of okay, we're going to purge the city now. You all have your target. Kill the most influential people in Gotham, from the police chief to the mayor, to the general of the Army Reserve Corps, and Batman really having to mobilize his family, saying, "Hey, all of you get out there and defend these people."
I remember seeing it on one page. I remember seeing Damian actually straight up killing a guy, which I thought was pretty cool.
Well, hey, they're undead, so it's all good.
Undead, totally cool.
They're undead and they're hard to kill, which is the thing. And to be fair, up until that point of getting killed, he got the crap knocked out of him, Damian, so you couldn't blame him at that point.
No, I honestly can't. I mean, Scott Snyder has really revolutionized Batman to how people see it nowadays. I mean,
oh yeah,
it's one of those books that is constantly up in the top sellers just because of the standard of the writing. I mean, sometimes it can have a dip, but that's expected, obviously.
And the art, too. Greg Capullo's art, of course, is absolutely stellar. Now, I think the fault of this event, if it has a fault at all, is pretty much something that I think every big Scott Snyder storyline has, is that he starts huge, blows your mind in the middle. He kind of fumbles the ball just a little bit at the end. Every time.
Yeah, it's kind of fair, yeah.
I mean, it's going to happen, of course. They pulled the old standard, but maybe Bruce actually had a brother he didn't know about, and they haven't really gone back to that sense.
Say what?
Yeah, it was a little soap opera, a little old school comics, but they always had, the thing up in the air of maybe he is, maybe he isn't, maybe he's crazy, maybe we'll never know.
Well,
and of course,
a good event.
It was a good event, and it gave us the Court, which actually stuck around as solid villains for a while in the New 52. Of course, they were a big player in the Talon book that I loved so much, and I'm kind of sad that that's canceled now. And with it, the Court of Owls kind of seems to go with him.
And with it, Strix as well, who's actually turning out to be a pretty interesting character, because Birds of Prey got cancelled, so...
Yeah, so a good event and also kind of a sad one, too.
Well, my number 3 best, my favourite, I would say, was something that really got me interested within DC Comics again. It was, stereotypically, was Flashpoint.
Yeah.
Now, everyone who doesn't know about it, basically, this was the reboot of the DC Universe. It wasn't actually... You didn't really know that at the beginning, but it turned out that at the end. It was imaginative. It was like an imaginative alternative reality, but they were all very well written stories. They were all very, very spread out, varying character traits, and it actually got me interested in Aquaman and Wonder Woman again. I mean, they were cool to me again. I mean, the dynamic of them going against each other for their cities was incredible. And basically, for those who don't really know about it, it's basically Flash tried to go back in time to stop his mother's death, and in doing so, kind of punched a hole in reality, and basically everything got screwed up to the point that Superman was never really Superman, Cyborg's working for the military, and Batman is a crazed casino-owning drunk who mourns the death of his family.
Yeah, and a lot of other really crazy stuff that's in there.
I mean, one of the things that I love about the event, I mean, just the event as a whole, were the tie-in comics, because I think the Aquaman and the Wonder Woman stories were the most, I think, drama-punched, because, like, betrayal after betrayal, like, murder after, like, in accidental killing. I mean, it was like one of those interesting royal affairs that you never really get to see nowadays.
Yeah.
And obviously, it's been made into a DC animated film. Obviously, not the same, but it's still very good.
It sticks true to the themes and the messages of the story, which I think is great. I definitely think it's up there. It's one of those few animated movies where I'm like, damn, this is as good, if not a little better, in its own way.
I mean, the event as a whole, I mean, the actual event comic, Flashpoint, I think the one thing that actually made me feel so emotionally attached was the fact that at the end of it all, Barry Allen could actually remember everything that he'd seen and all the alternative reality. And then Batman says, well, maybe it was a gift. And that that ending is beautiful. That's a great writing by Jeff Johns. And obviously, there are some faults to it. I mean,
of course,
it is a little stereotypical of having Cyborg work for the military and Batman being a crazed drunk. But all in all, it's a pretty solid event, and it's very enjoyable that started off the New 52. So,
and it's funny too, because I know that story didn't get very well reviewed at the time when it was coming out. I actually think it looks better now in retrospect, and having a good movie helps it out a lot.
That was my number 3. So, give me your number 3 worst then.
Okay, so I'm going to pick one here that I think people have already forgotten, because Lord knows the writers and the people involved have already forgotten, and that is Shadowland from Marvel. Shadowland basically had the big thing there of like, hey, let's make Daredevil evil. Let's do that, and let's have him recruit a bunch of other street-level heroes and villains, and they'll be evil. And it's just like, wow, really, guys? Which, on paper, I can see where they were going for. On paper, it's like, well, we've been pushing Daredevil to the max. He always gets a little darker and grittier with every new writer and every new iteration. Let's just go all the way. Let's give him a black costume. Let's have him fucking kill Bullseye. As he's always talked about doing. Let's just do it. And it descends into madness pretty quick, and the overall resolution is a real cop-out and just real, well, he had a demon inside him. That's why he was bad, because demon.
I was told that from one of my friends that it was basically 2 weeks after the damn thing had finished, he was like on a soul quest, and then within another 2 issues, he was opening up the new lawyer film. I was like,
yep,
that was swept under the carpet pretty quick.
Swept under the carpet super quick. I don't think I've seen an event swept away so quickly. Like, I guess the writers were on a bender, and then they sobered up, and they're just like, oh, Jesus Christ, what did we do?
Yeah.
It's like they were writing it blindfolded, and then the blindfolds came off, and they're like, oh, no. I mean, when your ultimate final conclusion is just like, oh, yeah, a demon did it, the end.
That's kind of weak.
It's pretty weak. But what about yours? What was your number 3 for worst?
Well, this one is pretty notorious. It's had plenty of memes made of it, and to be honest, I read it in trade a few years back, and good God, it is just as awful as everyone said it was. Amazon's Attack.
Oh, yes, from the man who is now writing Iron Fist.
Will Pfeiffer.
The bees. By God, bees.
Bees.
See, that's the only thing that people remember from this event, and that's the memes.
And I feel so sorry for Pfeiffer, because he's had some really good stuff, but then it was just this one event that was just so damn awful that kind of dented his reputation, really. And so basically, everyone who doesn't really know about this, obviously you should by now if you're like a really good comic reader, basically, it was an event that was pretty on its coming. It was coming after Infinite Crisis. Wonder Woman had killed Maxwell Lord, and he was basically a mind controller. And basically, Wonder Woman lost respect from her colleagues because Superman and Batman didn't really see her in the same light anymore, even though she saved them.
Yeah.
So basically, the Amazons returned from a long hiatus and basically just straight up tried to kill everyone in America. So it was just basically Hippolyta and Cersei saying, "Ooh, it's like Wormtongue and Theoden from Lord of the Rings."
Yep.
And obviously the characters. My problem with the damn thing is all that we'll get to the ending in a minute, but it's the characters that kind of annoyed me. It's the fact that they took a good team that at the time was really enjoyable, and then they just kind of said, "Oh, well, Black Canary's meant to be in charge. Oh no, Batman's in charge now." But they don't act like themselves, which really annoyed me. Wonder Woman was barely in the damn thing, which was another thing.
Which is weird for a comic called Amazon's Attack.
At a Wonder Woman event, don't worry, she's only in 2 issues.
Damn.
And basically, it was, and let's all just face it, it was a tie-in to another event that was coming out pretty damn soon.
Yep.
So, spoilers, not really spoilers, because it's pretty crap.
It's an old event at this point.
Yeah, so spoilers, not really. The ending was that the Greek gods banished the Amazons across the earth, not really knowing what they were, but they had set up centers for Amazons who were needing help. And so the ending, you see it come up to the Greek highest of heaven, and you see the Greek gods chained up, and you're thinking, "Oh, who's done this?" And Athena's not really Athena. Who could it be? Oh, it's Granny Goodness from...
Oh, I forgot that's how it ended. It was Granny Goodness from Apocalypse. Oh, shit, I forgot that's how that ended. see, guys, this is the problem with the twist, is that we're laughing at it.
See, we're laughing at it now, but at the time they're thinking, "What? Wait, what?"
It was like, no fucking... And did anything even really become of Amazon's Attack? Did that lead into anything else, or was that just the end of it?
Actually, Gail Simone's run on Wonder Woman when she was at the time actually was really well handled. I mean, they had excellent. Wonder Woman as a pretty confused and conflicted hero who was basically saying, "I need to rebuild my image for this world that's seen me as an evil doer."
Mm-hmm.
And she tries to find the people who've been her former Amazons who have been away, and obviously Hippolyta's on her own on Themyscira, and that's the thing. It's the fallout which kind of recovered, but it's still a crappy event.
Yeah, sometimes that happens in comics. Sometimes you get a good story just out of heroes trying to rebuild their shattered image from bad events.
Mm-hmm. So moving on from the bad. So tell me your number 2 best.
Well, I'm surprised at this point we haven't had any crossovers with ours, but maybe this will be the one. And that is no surprise, and that is Blackest Night.
Oh.
For an event, this was the big Green Lantern one. I think even still, this is, the ruby in the crown of Jeff Johns as a writer who, reinvented the Flash, but basically made Flash the highest selling freaking DC book for a while, and it still is now. I mean, he made it into an industry. Blackest Night, of course, they've always referenced the Blackest Night in Green Lantern stories. In brightest day, in blackest night, no evil shall escape my sight. Mm-hmm. Well, this was it. Evil black rings fall from the sky, and dead heroes and villains start rising up as evil emotion-sucking zombies. But guess what? Here's another thing, and this is the brilliance. This was the piece of brilliance to this story and why it was able to be a whole DC Universe event, not just a Green Lantern event. And that is, not only do the rings raise the dead, but they raise people who were already dead. And in comics, as you know, people die all the time. Yeah, so there was a whole ready-made army of superhero sleeper agents. And they even explain it away as Necron going, "Oh yeah, well, you see, I left the door of death open a crack for heroes to come in and out because that's how long I've been planning this."
That's
this
really
is
clever.
my great scheme. This is also one of the few events where I have to say that like every tie-in was good.
Mm.
And that almost never happens. There are these amazing bits at the opening of every one of these stories where it's a quick recap of the person who's been deputized a Black Lantern and who's coming back. And the
Mm.
thing at the end of everyone is rise. My favorite tie-in was probably the Secret Six Suicide Squad
Oh yeah,
crossover
yeah, yeah.
where they fought the fiddler who had been killed in Villains United for being lame. Deadshot just shot him for sucking. And now he's back and zombied and he has this evil like black violin that he's fiddling on and screwing with them. That was a great one.
I think I remember seeing. I mean, like Captain Cold, he was like trying to and what's his Captain Boomerang and Captain Cold were like feeding people to this one of their friends, and it was like, and they were like saying this isn't right, but we still can't not do it.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, Blackest Night for me was one of those creepy events, but at the end of it, I thought it finished really well. I mean, I remember reading one of the Flash stories where, like, I think Wally West was one of the Black Lanterns as well, as he died. I can't remember if it's him or not, but don't correct me if I'm wrong.
It was one of them. A lot of heroes died.
Yeah, I mean, but like Barry Allen was like connecting to him, and then eventually Barry Allen became a Blue Lantern.
Oh yeah, that's right. They deputized a bunch of different people. We got Orange Lantern Lex Luthor, Yellow Lantern Scarecrow, Red Lantern Mira.
Yeah, Wonder Woman became a Star Sapphire, which was one of the weirdest things.
Of course.
And I think I actually agree with you. Blackest Night is a good event. Yeah, I really like it. It's an interesting event, and obviously it shows off Johns and how well he writes an event that he's been planning for a while.
Indeed. And you know what? I have to say a lot of the problems with recent Green Lantern events and indeed DC events in general is I think they're trying very hard to chase Blackest Night. Like they know that was a high point, and I think they keep trying to get back there. And I know, like, I'm not even reading the new 52 Green Lanterns right now because I don't have the necessary material to catch up.
Joel, I don't think anyone is.
No, like, goddamn, there's like how many? There's like 5 Green Lantern books now.
I mean,
It's
ridiculous.
It's insane. And guess what? They all have tie-ins and crossovers now. Like there was Turn Off the Light, there was Wrath of the First Lantern, and I think there's more. Is the thing is that apparently people who do read the Green Lantern books are telling me that they're just event fatigued out right now. Because everything has been crossing over and everything has been an event. I should tell people, check out readingorders.com. It's a really great site that tells you in what order you should read events. And it's really funny to track the progression of Jeff Johns on Green Lantern. Because it's like, oh, look, just one book. Oh, now and Green Lantern Corps. Okay, now we're in Sinestro War and we've got a whole bunch more and a bunch specials. Okay, well, now it gets back to normal again. Now Corps. Now Blackest Night. Okay, now New 52. Now Red Lanterns.
Stop!
Yeah, you can just see how it's like the goose that lays the golden eggs is what it was, and now they have.
For my number 2, I toiled and toiled on this one because I was split on something that is very similar in the title and very similar in the premise, but ultimately, and I know it is very, very recent, but I have to say number 2 has to be Infinity.
From Marvel. Yeah, I never got around to reading Infinity. Please tell me about Infinity.
Basically, Infinity was a long time coming. I mean, although it'd been built up across the entire Marvel now, you could tell bits and bits were going past. I mean, you could tell it in New Avengers, you could tell it in like Captain Marvel as one of them, and you could also tell it in Guardians. I mean, something was being built up. And so, basically, all of the tie-ins made sense to the actual event as a whole, which was the good thing about the whole comic. And Thanos was actually presented as an actual threat again and just showed some of his power. I mean, he'd been gone for a while. I mean, you got Thanos Rising, which was very good, by the way. But then you had... And then he was gone, and which was incredibly weird. But then also within the books, you got the Inhumans got a really big push in it as well. I mean, issue 3 is probably one of the best ones, where you have Thanos and Black Bolt talking over how they're going to settle this fight before it all goes to hell. The villains were really written clever. I mean, it was written by Jonathan Hickman, and he was he was in charge of the actual Infinity, and
right.
all the other times were handled by the own writers, blah blah blah. But he wrote it very well. I mean, it was basically Thanos tricked Earth's heroes to go and face the Builders up in Cosmic. And while all the heroes were up in space, he just said, all right, I'm just going to invade Earth right now, looking for his son, Thane. We had no idea where he was, but so basically he just went round on his stomping ground saying, if you see my son, you're pretty much dead to me. Goodbye. This event was one of those Marvel events that I was going to be about, it's going to be one of those previously crappy ones, but it was actually an event that reinstalled my faith with what Marvel was doing.
Yeah, Marvel had a really bad run of events for a while, from Avengers versus X-Men to Age of Ultron.
I mean, they are pretty bad, and Infinity was forewarned of being like one of those, but in the end, I think it actually became a good stepping forward for Marvel. I mean, Original Sin has just started, and already it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
They'd have to work hard to screw up Original Sin.
Well, we could think of a few ways.
You know.
It was all a dream.
It was Deadpool actually killed the Watcher. It was him.
Yeah, and he stole his eyes and sold it on eBay.
But, someone would love that, though, if that was the thing. We joke, but, people would
That's
love
the what
that.
if. That's the what if. Sell it, Marvel. Sell it.
That's the what if thing for it. I did read one Infinity tie, and I know for work it crossed over with a lot of the books I was reading, so I wasn't reading it, so I just kind of let them be. But the Hulk Infinity tie from Mark Waid was really solid, about Hulk fighting all the greatest scientific minds who kind of left him out and tried to fix the Infinity problem on their own, and he kind of got mad, like, no, guys, Bruce Banner, I'm helpful.
Hey guys, I'm relevant still.
Yeah, I'm a scientist, let me help. And that fits really well into his arc for what's going on in that, and even moving forward to what's in Original Sin now. They had kind of built up Hulk fighting the scientific community.
So we'll see how that comes off in the future, but for now, I think Infinity, like I said, a positive step forward, and it's going to be good from now on, I hope.
I hope so, too.
So, Joel, give me your number 2 worst.
Okay, my number 2 worst. This is the one, the name is synonymous at this point. It sends shivers down the spine of men. The one that killed a lot of enthusiasm for the universe that it's in, mine included. And that is, of course, Ultimatum.
No!
From the Ultimate Universe, the feel-bad event of the year. Magneto steals Thor's hammer and ends up flooding New York. He floods a bunch of places. Characters die needlessly, people get eaten, and overall it's just really grim and shitty.
And pretty mean-spirited as well.
Very mean-spirited. This has to be one of the most mean-spirited events they've really, really ever done. Like, it feels ugly to read it, and I mean, this was Loeb, right?
I think so. I'm pretty sure it was.
I'm pretty sure it was Loeb. Loeb still gets crap for this to this day.
I think one of the grotesque parts of it was one of my favorite characters from that universe, the Wasp being eaten by the Blob from a one-off comment from Ultimates 3.
Yeah.
Oh, that was...
A character gets cannibalized for shock value, and that's really what Ultimatum was. It was shock value. It's the, hey, look, this is the Ultimate Universe where stuff happens and it sticks, characters die and they stay dead, so we're just going to kill a whole bunch for shits and giggles.
I was praying that Cataclysm didn't become like that when that came out.
Yeah, Cataclysm was it done right. And, again, as I said before, this killed a lot of people's enthusiasm for the Ultimate Universe. I still never really went back to the Ultimate Universe after this, except for Ultimate Spider-Man.
Ultimate Spider-Man still managed to be good after that, but Ultimatum, it was like a dagger to the heart, really. I mean,
yes,
you see all these characters that you love, all of them, gone, dead.
Well, now they're dead.
Hope you like them. Bye-bye.
And not even good heroic deaths, just shitty cut down in an instant deaths.
Yeah. And
we could get into plenty of nerdy arguments too, where it's like, wait, how does Magneto's magnetism power help him use Thor's hammer? Like, there's so many conversations like that we can get into that are a problem but aren't even the biggest problem.
Here's one. How could Wolverine just be blasted away by Magneto? I mean, Magneto's got magnetism. How could he just blast Wolverine away?
I don't even know.
It's
I don't even. Ultimatum, man. Like I said, the feel bad event of the year.
it's like that drink you know you shouldn't have, but it still ends up happening, and you feel crap in the morning for why.
Yeah. I think the true lasting effect of Ultimatum is the fact that we're still talking about Ultimatum all this time
Mm.
later.
And the ending, would you like to comment on that even?
You go, you go.
Well, Namor was captured. Doctor Doom was kind of saying, "Next time, Gadget, next
Next
time."
time.
And the Thing walks in and kills Doctor Doom. There's your
Crushes
ending,
his
folks.
head. Which actually, here's the funny thing. They've actually made reference to that again in the new Fantastic Four book. They do a flashback to that.
Seriously?
I kid you not, and apparently Doctor Doom is running around in that book. Again, I haven't been reading it, I've just been editing Sean's reviews of it. And yeah, apparently a Doctor Doom is back, and they reference the fact that the
Shouldn't he be
Thing.
dead?
Yeah, they reference the fact that he crushed his head. I'm like, oh, thanks for reminding us about Ultimatum, guys. We really needed that.